Okay, this is Savior 2006. This is my second review for the day. I have some catching up to do for all this stuff I've read, and by all the stuff I've read, I mean the 2 books that I read since I last posted a review. This time, we're going to knock out Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King. Now, I know what you're thinking right now. You're probably thinking, this has a dragon. This book must have a dragon in it, and you would be completely correct, because it does have a dragon in it. Although the dragon isn't the focus of the book. Now, generally, I liked this book by Stephen King, but it certainly wasn't my favorite one of his. It's basically a fantasy tale that is apparently, that according to Amazon.com, was actually based on a story that he told, to one of his children, in which case it must have been a very dark and bloody childhood for that child. And the characters, I don't think that perhaps they were as fleshed out as they were in some of King's other books, some of his earlier books, perhaps. One of the 2 main characters that probably see the most conflict is Peter and Flag, the wizard. Prince Peter is the son of King Rowland the Good, and Peter is to be the heir to the throne, and he's very strong, he's very brave, he's very intelligent, doesn't take crap from anybody, and so the villain of the book, Flag, doesn't really like him. He's trying to get rid of him so that he can destroy the kingdom, and I pretty much told you the plot right there. And the other main character of the book is Thomas, which is Peter's younger brother. And Thomas is the round character of the book. He goes through all of the moral development that you will see in some of King's other works. He's basically he's like Harold Lauder from The Stand. He's kind of awkward. He's got some issues with like bravery. He's not very brave. He's not very intelligent, and so he has low self-esteem. He basically hates his brother, and he hates his brother because his brother is strong and brave in everything he wants to be. So he goes through the moral conflict. And so because of that, I probably have the most sympathy for him, because generally speaking, I'm going to sympathize the most with the characters that go through a lot of moral conflict. That's very interesting. It's always very interesting to watch. The plot is basically about, well, like I said, Peter was to be the heir to the throne, and Flag's trying to destroy the kingdom of, I believe it's called Gilead, or is it Delane? I think it's Delane. He's trying to destroy the kingdom because he's evil, and that's all he really cares. He's kind of like a evil personified type guy. He doesn't really have much of an intelligent reason. He just likes to destroy everything. And Peter was standing in the way of all that because he's very brave, he's very smart. And so Flag frames Peter for the murder of King Rowland, so that Thomas would end up being the new king, and so that Flag can actually manipulate Thomas, because as you will see fairly early on in the book, Flag can manipulate Thomas very easily. So, very good plot. Now, you'd probably think that because it involves 2 like heirs to thrones and like 2 princes, that would involve a lot of like armies clashing, because that stuff has like happened in history. Unfortunately, it doesn't really happen here. This isn't like a fantasy action book like some of the Dragonlance books. I don't know if any of you have heard of them, but it's like a fantasy action adventure tale. This is like a fantasy drama. The prose in the book, it's actually fairly different from what you're going to find in books like the Tommyknockers, books like Firestarter, Dead Zone, It, Lizzie's Story. Oh my god, I hated that book, because it's very fanciful. Like, have any of you ever read like a lot of those old like old-fashioned fairy tales. A lot of the writing is kind of like that. King in this book, he is extremely conversational as he narrates these events. He constantly refers to himself. He's constantly saying "I," and he's also constantly referring to the reader, acknowledging their existence, like a man trying to tell like a folk tale or something. And it's hiccups. And it's all very good. So, especially the climax, which, and like as usual, the climax is very good. It's very powerful. There's a lot of innuendo in what I just said, but that's okay. I would recommend this book for people perhaps who are just starting to read Stephen King, but I would also warn them that this is not his typical book, and it is not a book that I would base his others on. This is a fantasy drama, and as many of you might already know, Stephen King is primarily like a horror writer, especially from the 70s to the 80s. Otherwise, I recommend this book. It is awesome. Pick it up.